Hey there. So I've been a relationship expert for about 12 years or so at this point. And I wanted to share my story about how I got back together with my ex. So all of this happened years ago before I was what you would call a relationship expert, before I had this YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. Me and my ex had been together for, I guess, about 7 years or so. Well, we'd been together for 5 years before we had our first breakup, but total, we were together for 7 years. We had met each other in high school, and then I was in my early 20s. I was, away from home at university. It wasn't terribly far. I grew up in the suburbs, went to university in the big city, Seattle. It felt a little bit like a long distance relationship because, being young and broke, I didn't have a car, so I had to take the bus back home whenever I wanted to see her. And it took me about 2 hours via bus transfers and all that sort of stuff to make it happen. But that's kind of how it went. The first time we broke up, it was my junior year at university, and it was springtime. And I was going through a really tough time with school. It was very challenging, very demanding. I could tell that we weren't connecting as much as we had so much in the months prior, in the years prior. I thought it was just because she was going through her own challenges at the time, starting her freshman year of college at a local community college. I thought she was just busy. I just didn't make much of it because I was so busy as well too. One day I came back to the suburb that we grew up in for the weekend, and I was staying at my mom's house. We got together, right? We arranged to get together and meet at this park, sort of halfway between both of our houses. And we got there, and we just sort of talked for a little while. And she was kind of kicking the sand at this little playground. She was sitting on one of those swing sets, just kicking the sand, like she was working up the courage to say something. And that's when she told me that she had feelings for someone else, and she wanted to break up with me. This took me off guard. I could tell that we were having some difficult times connecting, like I said before, but I didn't think that it was this bad. And it also really shook me as well too, because we had been together at that point for 5 years, since I was a junior in high school. It really surprised me. It surprised me because we had always been this really close couple, that the people we grew up with and went to high school with and all that looked at us and thought of us as that couple that's always going to be together. They look so happy. When it came time to yearbook time and all that, they're like, yeah, you're voted the most likely to get married. You're voted the most likely to make it together and all that sort of stuff. And I took pride in that, especially, coming from a family where my parents divorced. I always wanted to figure out the whole relationship thing. I figured if I just loved someone hard enough, we wouldn't break up. We'd be able to make it. But here I was getting dumped at this playground in this park halfway between our houses on the weekend on a spring day. She left. She had to go home and do whatever. And I just kind of sat there at the playground not knowing what to do. I just sat there crying. I sat there completely shocked, going through all the emotional shifts and twists that I'm sure many of you have gone through. Feeling hopeless, feeling optimistic that maybe you could do something, feeling that punch in the gut, knowing that she's in love with someone else, feeling all sorts of things in between. And so I went on a really long walk. I walked from the playground. I walked down to the edge of this lake. I went back and I measured it on MapQuest or whatever they had back then. And it was actually about 10 miles of walking because I had a lot to think about. But when I finished up all of that thinking, I decided that I was going to do what I could do to make things right between the two of us. And I proceeded to do everything that I totally don't recommend people to do. So I did all the begging, I did all the pleading, I did all that damage control mode stuff that you probably have done yourself. And if you watch other videos on our channel, you probably know about that stuff as well too. Somehow I managed to get through that semester of school. And because school was done for the term, I spent summer back home in the small town, the small suburb that we grew up in. And I was actually able to see her more often. And because her school was out too, her community college was out too, we were able to actually spend a lot of time together. She wasn't really talking so much with this other person. And we actually ended up getting back together again, simply because there were no other options for us romantically. So it's just okay, yeah, let's just get back together again. Not the most inspiring reason to get back together. Just going to put that out there. Not the most inspiring reason to get back together. That's why I don't recommend that people do that by just trying to eliminate their ex's other romantic options. What happened was after the summer was over, I went and actually spent a term in Rome, Italy. I was part of this like overseas program. And so I spent some time over there. And what happened was we did the whole long distance thing. I did my best to send her postcards and email her and do all this stuff to keep in contact and all that. But in the end, she ended up breaking up with me again while I was over there because fundamentally things didn't really shift in our dynamic in our relationship. And so she ended up breaking up with me again because she developed feelings for someone else again. That's when things got tough. I did the usual damage control mode stuff all over again because, again, I did not learn anything from our first breakup. Through the next few months, after I finished up the term in Italy and came back to the United States, I spent the holidays. It was a rough holiday season, let's just put it that way. We did this sort of no contact thing. I'd been reading about no contact on the internet, finally worked up the nerve to do it around New Year's, and went back to school my senior year. Went through a few weeks of no contact, but then one day I was checking my email. Again, this was many, many years ago, back before people really had smartphones and stuff. And so it was between classes. I went to one of these computer terminals that we had out in this common area of our school. And, people would just go in and log in and just check their email really quick before they went off to their next class. And so I did that, and I got this email from her, and it just said something like, hey, I really miss you. I don't like playing this game that we're playing, or something along those lines. And then I had to go to another class, so I just wrote her back and said something like, hey, I hear you. Let's talk when I'm done with class tonight, or something along those lines. And then I went off to my next class. I turned my phone off because back then people still had the common decency to do that. After class, I turned my phone back on. I saw that I had several missed messages from her. And so we talked. We just reconnected slowly. I wasn't trying to force things maybe the way that I had during the first breakup. We just slowly started talking again. And then we set it up to actually meet up in person a few weeks later, a week or two later, whenever I was going to be back in our hometown to visit my mom again. That's actually the first time we met up since doing the whole no contact thing. I'm glad we did the whole no contact thing because being in contact was not helping. And so we met up at Starbucks because, it's the suburbs. You don't have too many options. So we met up at Starbucks. I was really nervous, and I didn't know what to expect because we had not been having some good interactions prior to me going no contact. And so we met up. Thankfully, we connected really well. As soon as we both realized that we were just trying to have a good connection and good interaction, I think most of the anxiety on both of our sides melted away, and we were actually able to connect really, really, really well. And that was, I think, the beginning of us actually starting to build up a deeper emotional connection. And over the next few months, throughout the rest of winter and spring, we started to connect a lot better. We spent more time together. We met up a few more times. We'd talk on the phone from time to time. We'd email back and forth. And I could just see that things were moving ahead. She started to end things with her rebound. She got closer to me. Let's put it that way. And then at the end of my senior year, actually the day that I graduated, she actually came up to me and we were just kind of hanging out afterwards. And she said, like, hey, can I be your girlfriend again? And we hugged, we kissed, we made it official, and that's how we were back together. Then we sort of moved forward from there. And just for full disclosure, we actually ended up not being together long term because, after being together a few years after that, it became pretty clear that we both wanted different things in life. We just had different values. And so it became pretty clear that, okay, in order for us to be together, either one of us or both of us has to be unhappy. And so we just split ways and went our own separate way. But this whole process taught me a lot about getting back together. It taught me a lot about breakups. It taught me a lot about connecting emotionally. It's the foundation for what I've been teaching to people since then. Obviously, this happened way before I was anything like a relationship expert. And being able to work with people has allowed me to gain even more skill. But the main foundation behind all of this is that you have to focus on the emotional connection. You have to focus on being able to bond and connect in a powerful and meaningful sort of way. You can't just go back to the same dynamic that you went to that didn't work out before. And you can't just try to force it. You have to focus on yourself. You have to focus on building a strong meaningful emotional connection with one another. That is why so much of what we've been teaching people for the past 12 years has been around advanced relational skills, okay? So I want you to go and check out this video playlist right here on the topic of advanced relational skills. This is how to connect, this is how to bond, this is how to take things to the next level with your ex. Check it out there right now. Anyway, thanks so much. This is Clay, and I will talk to you next time.